Hello and welcome to another episode of Fan the Flames podcast with me, your host, Robert Stevenson. Now, once again, I join the podcast, not exactly sure what it is that we're going to be talking about. One of the things that's really caught my attention recently is this idea of what is front of mind, what's at the top of the deck in our thinking. And that might be about coming to coaching, and we sit in a coaching session and we go, well, what's front of mind? What's really holding our attention right now? And that reminds me of the work of David Drake and some of his processes of looking at, well, what is our current situation? How do we really get in touch with and understand with what's going on for us right now so that we can then transition into the space of, well, what is it that we want to be going on? So understanding what is in order to create what we want. And I've been thinking about that recently because I've also been reading a book, How to Feel Better. And that's been making me think about, well, how do we feel? And are we in touch with how we're feeling? Are we in touch with our state of wellness, well-being, whatever that might be right now? And if we're not, how do we get in touch with that so we can look at whether we want to change it or not, or whether we need to change it? I know that I'm using that word need, and the coaches amongst us will be going, what's that? Is there a need or is there a want? And sometimes, it feels like we need to. Sometimes it feels like we need to do something. We need to shift something. We need to change something. And I guess that when I talk about that need, it has a different quality to it. It's not a need that comes from the external world, but it's more of my system calling out for me to do something. So it's more like an internal calling, an internal need for action to be taken or shifts to happen. And so when I just kind of tune into that for a little bit and think about, so what is it? What is my system calling for? I'm really aware that there is a health and wellness thing going on for me right now. I've just been away for a couple of days with the boys, with the lads, as it listen to me, with the lads. And we overindulged as you do when you go away sometimes. And coming back from that overindulgence has caused me to think about, okay, it's taken me a while to recover from that. The older you get, the longer it takes to recover. So perhaps there's something about how do I support my own system so that recovery and resilience for that can take place. But also, how do I recognize that perhaps there are some things that I can do a little bit less of because my system can't quite take it like it used to. So that makes me really think about this idea of preparation, but it also makes me think about resilience and stamina, and how do we enable ourselves to continue at our best? What are the conditions that we need to create in order for us to continue our best, to be at our best? Because, here at Fan the Flames, we talk about sparks and turning them into those glorious flames that shine brightly out there in the world. And we need to look after ourselves. We need to create environments where we are at our best, we can do our best work in order for that to happen. It's really hard to build a fire in the pouring rain. I mean, it's possible, but it's something that's much harder to do, and we need others to help us to do that. So if you're thinking about building your own fire, if you're thinking about enabling your own spark to catch, well, what's the environment that you need to put in place that's going to help your spark to do that? What's the things that you need to put in place for you that's going to enable your spark to do that? So I know the last couple of days I've had to drink lots of water, get up early, go for my walks to get my brain in gear to do my work, right? So I've had to really double down on the environments that enable me to do my best work. And over time, I will be able to maybe pull back a little bit from that. But what really strikes me is that not to stop doing that. So one of the things that can happen for us is that we decide that we're going to do something and we begin it and we put all of the environmental needs in place for us to do that thing, whatever that thing might be. Whether it's losing weight or writing a book or starting our business or achieving that goal, whatever that goal might be for you, we put conditions in place to do that thing, and then as we begin to do it, we start to let those conditions drop off, and then we wonder why that we didn't get there. We didn't get there in the end, and that's because we removed the very things that were enabling us to do it. So as I think about, having spent the last couple of days doing lots of walking, lots of drinking water, lots of sleeping to be at my best, then actually it's not about stopping doing those things, but about how do you make sure you continue to do those things to enable you to stay at your best. So what is it that you need to continue doing? What is it that you need to keep feeding your fire in order for it to burn brightly? And are you feeding your fires the right things? When we think about taking on a big goal, what are the conditions or the things that we need to have in place to make that happen? Is it a coach? Is it a mentor? Is it a therapist? Is it some kind of guidance team? Is there a particular space that we need to be working in order for that to happen? Is there a particular time of the day that we need to be doing our goal, our actions to achieve it? What might that be? And maybe if we change some of that up, maybe we'll get some different results. So maybe working in your office isn't the best place for you to write your book. Maybe you need to be out in the park or maybe on a beach. That would be great, wouldn't it? Let's take some time out to go on a beach and all write our books. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's about giving yourself the time to do the thing, giving yourself the time, the space to make it happen. So perhaps this whole conversation has just been about how do we give ourselves the time and space to do the things that we want to do? How do we create that time and space? How do we recognize that we have control over our time, the things that we are doing? So if we want to do something, we can choose to do that thing. We can choose to achieve that goal. We can choose to get that spark fired up and create our flame that we shine out to the world. But we have to choose that. We have to decide that this is what we want to do. And then we want to get all the conditions in place to keep us moving in that same direction, in that same decision-making process, recognizing that life's going to happen, right? Life happens and it shakes things up and it moves things around and we go, oh, right, I need to shift this, move this, do this over here. And all of that's okay if we get back on the horse or the bike or the cart or whatever it might be that we're getting back on, so that we can keep ourselves moving forward. And it just makes me wonder about this idea of what are the conditions that you need? What's the environment that you need to achieve your goal? And perhaps part of our job is to continue to create those environments. So how do we continue to create the environments that enable us to be at our best? Who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to share that with? And how do we remind ourselves of that when things are a little bit tough or a little bit challenging? So, do you keep reminders on your phone? Do you have post-it notes stuck around the house? What is it that you do to help you remember the goal that you're on the journey to achieving, the environment that you need to create in order to achieve that goal, and perhaps the people that need to be around you that help you to do that? So who are your cheerleaders? Who are your supporters? Who are the people that keep you on track, that remind you, but also the ones that keep you in your best self? Who are the people that can be around you that help you to be the best you that you can be? And we have those, right? We have people that when we spend time with, we notice that we just glow a little bit brighter. And there are people that we spend time with where we don't glow so bright. So maybe there are sort of people things, physical things, our own mental thought processes and mindsets, our desire, our heart, our passions. Maybe there are a whole collection of qualities, of elements that are needed in order for us to achieve things. And sometimes, perhaps, we forget about them and we are so busy trying to make it happen that we don't create the conditions that enable it to happen. So what are the conditions for you? I'd love to hear. I'd love to for you to share in the comments below, around somewhere. What are the conditions that you create that enable you? I'll start that again. What are the conditions that you create that enable you to be at your best, to achieve what it is that you want to achieve? Please share, because I'm sure that it will help somebody else think about, well, what are the conditions that they might need to create that will support them in achieving, or how might they tweak the conditions that they already have so that we don't get stale in the conditions that we're creating, that we keep them fresh and alive and moving and happening. So this has been me, your host, Robert Stevenson, here at Fan the Flames, kind of exploring what are the things that we need to do in order to achieve our goals, in order to turn our sparks into those beautiful blight, into those beautiful bright flames. And whatever that is for you, then please do let us know, because I believe that we all have our spark, we all have our potential, and it's our job to nurture that spark. And today we've been talking about what are the conditions that we need to create to enable that spark to take place and become your roaring fire. Comment, message, get in touch. Let's have a conversation. And I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Take care, everybody.